Alright guys, we have a brand new update for Diablo 4 that comes in with some significant nerfs all across the board to paragon glyphs. Some of the strongest and best builds right now are also getting the short end of the stick, like the whirlwind barbarians, twisting blades rogues, and even more so for some reason pulverized druids as well. Not sure what that's all about, but let's check all that in this video. Now this patch is called 1.02D and I'm pretty sure that Blizzard did that intentionally because that's exactly what some of these classes are getting, a big fat D nonetheless. Starting with the Barbarian, the two biggest nerfs are to some of the legendary aspects that were making the whirlwind build so amazing in the endgame, specifically the gore's devastating grips and the aspect of the dire whirlwind. So gore's devastating grips, the explosion damage from this has been reduced significantly, less than half of what it was before, from between 50 to 70% all the way down to 16 to 26%. Even more so, you can no longer stack the damage as much as before because the explosion damage is only increased by the first 100 hits of the whirlwind. Additionally, damage against trackable objects no longer increases explosion damage either. Similarly, aspect of the dire whirlwind gets a massive reduction to the critical strike chance bonus that you could get at max with this, but the critical strike chance per second doesn't change too much, from 10% all the way down to 8, so not too bad, but that max crit strike chance bonus goes from 40% all the way down to just 24. Now, some of the other nerfs might not be as bad in practice as they are on paper, specifically Bold Chieftain's aspect. The cooldown reduction per enemy has gone way down from 5.4 seconds to only 1.9. But if it's anything like the similar nerf that Rogue also got, which is even bigger, I didn't feel it as big in the end game because you're constantly fighting extremely large groups of enemies. It's probably going to only affect situations when you're fighting maybe like bosses or like less enemies, but in the end game, not so much. But the maximum cooldown reduction went down from 12 to just 6, so who knows, maybe some testing could reveal what's going on. In terms of the challenging shout, also another nerf, but again, maybe not as big as it seems. Damage reduction gained from skill ranks reduced from 4 to just 2%. This means that with a 5 out of 5 points invested in it, you no longer have a 56% damage reduction, but 48. It doesn't sound too bad, it could have been way worse. Now, druids, oh boy, they are getting pulverized. Pun absolutely intended, by the way, because pulverized gets two nerfs. One to the lucky hit chance, which got a reduction from 33 to 25%, and also the aspect that was buffing it, the legendary aspect of the shockwave, which made the damage all the way up to 130 with this. In this case, it's going to be only up to 100%. Still, I would say a pretty significant nerf, totally undeserved because it was the only build actually viable in the endgame, at least personally, but we do have some other buffs in there too. Lightning Storm gets a damage increase up to 40%, Grizzly Rage bonus increase from like max 15% all the way to 18%, and we also have a few for the class specialization. So Obsidian Slam, we have kills required for bonus increase from 10 to 20, so this is pretty much a nerf. Calm Before the Storm, lucky hit chance reduced from 15 to just 10%, another nerf. Crash Stone aspect, another one important for the pulverized build, gets a nerf in terms of the critical strike damage from the max 50% all the way down to 40. This would be used to further increase the earth skill critical strike damage, so basically just targeting the pulverized build specifically. Necromancer is getting a few more, but we're gonna skip this and instead talk a bit about the Rogue because some of these changes I actually did not find as bad as they might seem. So let's start with the Twisting Blades. Advanced Twisting Blades cooldown reduction per enemy hit reduced from 0.25 all the way down to 0.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Advanced Twisting Blades maximum cooldown reduction has gone down from 3 to just 2 seconds. Now, I went ahead and tested this out, and as I've said, it's actually still good. I did not notice much of a difference when fighting large groups of enemies, as I was able to still completely refresh the cooldown on my active abilities just as easy as before because of the large number of enemies that the Twisting Blades bounces between. However, in single target combat and maybe boss fights, I can see this affecting your build a little bit, but for the most part, it's not as bad as it seems for now. Now, other certain abilities were also specifically targeted that were also part of the Twisting Blades build. For example, Dash, Enhanced Dash, critical strike damage. The bonus on it is now just 15% from previously 20%. Dark Shroud damage reduction is now 0.4 seconds. from previously 0.8 seconds per each shadow. And they did buff some of the others in, I believe, an attempt to make some of the other builds a bit better, like the rapid fire one from 24% buff to 30%. And also Caltrops got a pretty nice buff too, from 30% damage all the way to 40%. Now for the Necromancers, we have a few nerfs here, but luckily the Bone Spear build is still just as strong. Only a couple of nerfs in terms of the resource regeneration and maybe a few of the critical strike chances we get. Specifically, Grim Harvest essence gain reduced from 369 to just 246, and Serration, another passive that contributed massively to our critical hits, reduced from 0.5, 1, and 1.5 to 0.3, 0.6, and 0.9. So this is maybe like the biggest for our Bone Spear build, but the rest are pretty okay, I would say. They did buff the Blood Lance, increased the damage all the way to 80%. Army of the Dead, for some reason, the damage increased on this all the way to 45%, but they reduced the cooldown even more from 90 to 70%, so they definitely want us to use that a lot more. Blood Wave, they also increased the damage on this from 90 to 120%. Might even give it a shot after the new update. In terms of the other passive changes, the damage on the Shadow Blight has been increased by just 2%. But check this out, maximum minion life lost in a single damage instance reduced from 75, 60, 45% to just 60, 35, 30%. So I actually can't believe that we're getting a Necromancer minion buff in this patch that pretty much nerfs everything, but is more than welcomed, I will just say that. Finally, we have the Sorcerers, especially the Arc Lash, which was part of many builds leveling up, including the Chain Lightning one, and still is part of the endgame builds, but this gets the most significant nerfs. So lucky hit chance on the Arc Lash has been reduced from 30 to 14%, and the Glinting Arc Lash cooldown reduction has been reduced from 0.25 to just 0.15. Also, the Shimmering Teleport damage reduction duration has gone down from 5 to just 3 seconds. I will not lie, that permanent 30% like damage reduction, because you would almost always teleport, was not bad, but now this might affect things a little bit and makes us less tanky with the Sorcerer. And also the legendary aspect of control, it's actually getting reduced by about 5% in terms of the bonus damage that you deal against immobilized, stunned, or vulnerable enemies. Actually not as bad as it could have been. Now there's many other nerfs in there, specifically glyphs are getting absolutely shattered. Pretty much across the board, a 34% in terms of bonus scaling reduction that we're getting with this new patch, with a few exceptions that you can go ahead and read in the patch notes, which are much higher than that, like critical strike damage glyphs reduced by 66%, vulnerable glyphs bonus reduced by 66%, and all the others in there that you can see right now. Yeah, this is going to change things a little bit, but maybe still not as much, since quite a few of these are still the best in slot. It's just that Blizzard doesn't want us to deal as much damage as before and breeze through the content. Now there's one change in here that was a bit, well, let's just say controversial, because it listed a significant reduction in the spawn rate of treasure goblins, but they actually came in and clarified that this is only within PvP zones. So you can still go ahead and hunt for treasure goblins and find them in cellars if you can, and farm them outside of PvP zones. It's just that inside PvP zones, they would oftentimes be a good source of getting legendary aspects from the legendaries that dropped over there, so you could get better bonuses than the ones from the Codex of Power. Now it seems we're gonna have to find them in other places. But that's pretty much it with the changes. Let me know down below what you think about them and how it affected your class. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and until the next video.